so much talk about India's political future, and one name just keeps popping up, doesn't it? Yogi Adityanath.
Yeah, you can't really avoid it, can you?
Hmm.
Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh is a pretty big deal.
Huge. And all these headlines and speculation, is he aiming for something even bigger? Like, is that prime minister's seat on his mind? I mean, that's the big question we keep coming back to as we've been going through all this stuff.
Well, it's a powerful narrative, isn't it? I mean, when you see a leader like that with that much influence over a state like Uttar Pradesh, I mean, come on. It's kind of natural for people to start thinking on that national level.
Totally. And you know what really jumped out at me going through all this? It's actually Yogi Adityanath himself. He's shooting down all this PM talk pretty directly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's not beating around the bush. He's basically saying, like, look, I'm a yogi at heart, This politics thing, it's not my whole life.
Interesting.
He even mentioned something about a time frame for his political career. So it really makes you stop and think about all those assumptions we've been making.
I mean, it's like he's deliberately trying to steer clear of that whole national speculation thing, drawing a line in the sand, his current job, and all these grand ideas people are throwing around.
Exactly. And that's what we wanted to explore today. I mean, you've seen the headlines, the predictions, right? We wanted to go deeper, look at what he's actually saying, the context, and all that, to really try and figure out how he sees his place in all of this.
Sounds good.
So, okay, let's kick things off with his relationship with the central leadership. That's always a big clue, right? When we're trying to figure out where someone might be headed on the national stage.
For sure how much they're on the same page with the party.
Yeah.
Any friction there, it all gets analyzed.
Yeah.
Any sign that someone's going their own way, boom, instant national ambition speculation.
Right. And Yogi Adityanath, he basically shut that whole discussion down. I mean, he makes this really straightforward point, like, look, I'm the chief minister because the party decided, so how can there even be any big differences? It's pretty logical when you think about it.
Yeah, it's like he's putting it out there front and center. Hey, my power comes from the party, so no need to worry about me going rogue.
Exactly. But even with all that, the speculation just keeps swirling around, doesn't it? Makes you think there might be something more going on beneath the surface.
Oh, definitely. There's always more to the story than just the official line, right?
And you can't ignore his popularity. I mean, the guy has serious support, and it seems to be growing even outside Uttar Pradesh.
Absolutely. It's a huge factor in politics, right? You connect with people on that level, they start picturing you in a bigger role, just kind of happens.
But then you have Yogi himself downplaying any personal ambition for higher office. Like, he keeps saying this isn't his only focus. He sees an end point to his political career, almost like he's trying to manage expectations, or maybe that's just genuinely how he sees things.
Could be the strategy, Nobody likes a power-hungry politician, but with his background as a yogi, maybe it really is about something more than just climbing the ladder.
Maybe. So, all right, let's shift gears a bit and talk about his time governing both the good and the controversial stuff, because that's always going to be part of the conversation, right? When we're thinking about someone's potential on the national stage, and one thing that always comes up is the accusation of discrimination, specifically against the Muslim community.
Yeah, that's a big one. A lot of criticism focused on certain policies and actions seen as evidence of that.
And Yogi Adityanath has pushed back with a very specific counter-argument using statistics. He points out that Muslims make up about 20% of Uttar Pradesh's population, but they receive a much larger share of government benefits, like 35 to 40%. He's been pretty clear. I neither believe in appeasement nor discrimination.
That definitely adds another layer to the discussion, doesn't it? I mean, those numbers seem to contradict the idea of systemic discrimination, at least when it comes to those benefits.
For sure. But, we always have to remember statistics only tell one part of the story.
Right. The human side of it, all the lived experiences, that's important too.
Absolutely. Okay, another policy that's gotten a lot of attention is that no namaz on public roads stance. His administration's been super firm on that one, saying it's all about keeping things orderly traffic, flowing smoothly for everyone.
And some people see that as targeting a specific religious practice, restricting freedom of religion,
I see that point too, but his justification is all about roads being for transportation, not religious gatherings. And he's brought up the Hindu festival of Mahakumbh in Prayagraj, pointing out how incredibly well organized it is with literally millions of devotees.
Wow, millions.
Over 660 million. Apparently, he's basically saying, if you want the benefits of the state, you got to follow the rules. Everyone has to.
It's an interesting comparison, isn't it? Like he's saying, let's have the same standards for everyone, no matter what your religion is.
Right. And that whole order and smooth functioning of things, that's a big theme for his administration, for sure. Okay, let's talk religious processions. There was some worry about outright bans initially, but it seems like it's more about regulation.
Yeah. Seems like they're more into managing things, setting some guidelines instead of just saying no to everything.
Exactly, like during Muharram, there are rules about the height of tazias to make sure they don't mess with power lines. And during Kanwar Yatra, they have regulations for how loud those DJs can be.
Yeah, those DJs can get pretty intense.
They can, and Yogi's been very clear, anyone who breaks the rules faces consequences no matter what their religion is.
No exceptions, he said.
So again, it's that same idea. Everyone plays by the same rules. It's about fairness across the board.
Yep. Okay. Now, walk boards. Yogi had some strong opinions about those. He basically thinks they've strayed from their original purpose of helping the community and have gotten too focused on land grabbing.
Hmm. His comments on those boards are pretty direct. They raise some serious questions about how effective they are and what their real priorities are.
Yeah, and he even threw out a challenge, like can any walk board point to hospitals or schools they've built to help people? Then he compared that to the charity work Hindu temples and mutts do in education and healthcare. It's a pretty stark contrast. He's not mincing words, is he? It's definitely a controversial viewpoint, but it shows how critical he is of how those boards are operating right now.
Okay, now the big one, bulldozer justice, it's practically become synonymous with his administration, hasn't it? And other states are picking it up too, so it's obviously resonating with some people, but there's been a lot of pushback too.
Bulldozer justice. It's become a symbol, hasn't it? Taking swift action against illegal constructions and encroachments. It's a strong image.
It is, and Yogi sees the bulldozer as just a tool for governance, something they use for various things, not just demolitions like clearing space for roads, removing unauthorized stuff. But we can't gloss over the Supreme Court stepping in, criticizing the demolition of homes without following the legal process, and they've ordered compensation in some cases, so it's not as simple as it might seem at first glance.
Yeah, that adds a whole other dimension to it. The court's getting involved. It emphasizes that even when you're trying to enforce the law, you got to do things the right way.
Absolutely. Okay, let's talk about Yogi's overall philosophy on politics. He seems to believe that when politics is all about personal ambition and self-interest, it leads to chaos and instability. But real public service, that's where you find the potential to actually fix things.
It's an interesting perspective, isn't it? Like he's saying, it shouldn't be about you, it should be about serving others.
Exactly. And he even tied this philosophy to his religious beliefs, saying people have to choose between being part of the problem or being part of the solution. It's like this moral compass guiding his actions.
It's like he's saying, my faith, my beliefs, they inform how I govern.
Yeah, okay. And when it comes to legacy, Yogi doesn't seem too hung up on personal recognition or fame. He's more about the results of his work.
Yeah.
He's proud of Uttar Pradesh becoming India's second largest economy over the last 8 years, and that per capita income has doubled.
Yeah, focusing on economic progress, it's a classic move for politicians. Show people the positive changes you've made.
Definitely, all right? He didn't hold back on the opposition either, especially the Congress Party. He basically said they've lost their way, forgotten their core values, and are essentially writing their own death certificate with their current direction.
He's really going after them, isn't he? It's pretty common in politics, though, right? Point out your opponent's flaws, try to make them look bad.
Yeah, it's all part of the game. I guess finally, let's talk about the RSS. He's got a lot of support from them, even though he's not a member. And he explained that by saying the RSS respects anyone who is dedicated to India, you know, who inspires others to do the right thing. It's more about shared values than having your name on a membership list.
So it's not about being officially part of the club. It's about believing in the same things, having that shared ideology.
Makes sense. All right. So after all this, after digging into the sources, hearing what he's had to say about his policies, his views, what's the verdict on those prime ministerial ambitions, he seems pretty determined to shut down those conversations, always emphasizing that he's a yogi first and foremost.
It's definitely a consistent message he keeps putting out there. Like he's saying, I'm not interested in climbing that particular ladder.
But even with all that, those whispers about his future, they're not going away, are they? He's got this growing influence and people just can't stop speculating. It's this weird push and pull between what he's saying and what people are thinking, and it makes him a really fascinating figure in Indian politics right now.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, whatever happens with his political career, his time governing Uttar Pradesh, and how straight-talking he is, it all tells us something about how Indian politics works today.
And that's what we want to leave you with today. What do you think about Yogi Adityanath saying no to the Prime Minister talk? Does him being so focused on Uttar Pradesh, does that make him stronger or maybe even weaker on the national stage? It's something to think about, isn't it?
It definitely is.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you later.